Hello, the Life Church. Thank you very much for having us here and just letting us share more about what's going on in Western Europe. This is my wife, Emily. I'm Guillermo, and we love to share more about what God is doing around the world, especially in Western Europe amongst Arab immigrants and locals. So thank you again.
So we are really blessed to be connected with the Life Church. All three campuses here in San Angelo, in Arlington, and we're excited to visit Abilene, hopefully very soon in the future. And we're grateful that God has kind of woven our story into yours and yours into ours. And so today we wanted to share a little bit about kind of how we got connected to the ministry that we serve in. And we wanted to give you kind of a history of how God has been working and expanding, just making inroads into this really, really close community over the course of the past 30 years now. So I guess I'll start with our team leaders. Our team leaders in Western Europe, they were sent initially to a country in the north of Africa that is completely closed and is known as, if you look it up on Joshua Project, it's ranked as 100% unreached. And so they were sent that way, that place from a place in the Middle East. They're actually native Arabic speakers. And their church got ready and they sent them off, and then their visas were denied. And so they said, well, we're not giving up. So we're going to go to the second largest concentration of this nationality. And so they found that in the community that we find ourselves in Western Europe. So boots on the ground, they started working, they started trying to serve this community holistically. And over time, God gave them favor, and he brought people to them. He brought the right people to them to be able to hear the message of Jesus Christ. And so they started a little Arabic church, and that grew and it grew. And it's been running for many years now. Mm-hmm. And now there are 2 ministry centers that we get to continue to serve the needs of the Arab diaspora holistically. And that means that we do things like language classes, support groups, after school activities. We help kids with their homework, and we listen to women who have had incredible migration trauma stories. And we teach language classes. We just do whatever the community needs at that time. We've done workshops on how to log into your Google account if you lost your password. Just whatever the community needs, that's where we meet them. And through the relationships that we get to build in those outreach centers, that's where we get to share the life-giving message of Jesus. So those are kind of the 2 longest standing sections of the ministry. We have a media section.
Yeah, we currently have a media ministry that is just growing like crazy. Well, I would say, yeah, because of pandemic, we know everyone that media ministry all over the world just took off, and it's been growing ever since. And right now, it's just a huge tool that we have to reach out to those that are not locally where we are, like present where we are, physical present. For instance, our Arabic church, which happens in Arabic, we have a YouTube channel that helps us reach out to those that are not in the city where we are. And we have a channel as well for the youth. We call it it's a channel for third culture kids. And if you don't know what a third culture kid is, basically your parents are from the US, or a couple is from here from the US, and they moved to India and they have kids in India. Well, those kids will have a combination of their parents' culture, the Indian culture, and the culture that they have of their own, the combination of both those cultures. So that's a third culture kids. So we have a lot of those kids where we are. Their parents are from somewhere else and they came to Western Europe. They're living life there, and they grow up confused because they don't know if they belong to their parents' culture, to the local culture, or something in between. So we have a series of videos that help them deal with all of these kinds of not necessarily trauma, but difficult times that they go through, trying to figure it out, where do they belong. We know that they belong to Jesus, like you and I do. So that's the main goal, trying to figure out life for them as they grow up, and trying to lead them to Jesus at the same time.
It's particularly poignant for us, I think, because we have third culture kids
Hmm.
that are growing up. And so I think that the giving them the resources and walking through this journey with them is really important, not just on a strategic level, but also on a personal level. I want my children to know Jesus as someone who understands 100% of them, and not just the version that their parents told them or that their community told them. So,
Yeah.
um,
Another section of the ministry, if you will, that we're part of in Western Europe is working with the local churches. Now, in the area where we are, there are not a lot of churches, evangelical churches. You see a lot of Catholic churches, but most of them are empty. People don't really practice, and they're just museums or places for tourists to go and see the beautiful architecture. So we partner with a few of the locals, and we started a church about 6 years ago, and it's just growing and growing. The beautiful thing about this church and other churches is that they're not only growing and reaching out to locals, but they're also getting the vision about reaching out to their Muslim neighbors. They're reaching out to those people that they don't speak their language, they don't look like them, they're completely different culture, and and they're now reaching out to them and inviting them to their homes and to the church and just sharing the love of God with them as well.
it's really sweet. So we actually have the privilege of working on a team that's very diverse and international. We have people from the Middle East, we have people from Latin America, we have people from Northern Europe, from the U.S., and it's just a really beautiful picture of what I think that will what I think it'll be like in heaven, right? So we'll have people from every tribe and every tongue worshiping Jesus together. And so it's really sweet to see this, like the beginnings of this within the churches in Western Europe, that they want to reach out to people that don't look like them and don't believe like them and don't act like them, and bring them to know Jesus. And not in a way that I want you to be like me, but I want you to know the God that has transformed my life. So I don't know. It's neat. It's a cool thing that we've started to see this movement now.
Yeah, but we've talked a lot about, or I guess a little bit about what's going on in Western Europe and what God is doing over there. But we haven't told you how we ended up there. And it's a different story for Emily as it is for me. And obviously, we both coincide in the middle, and now we're there. But I'm originally from Mexico. I grew up in Mexico in a evangelical church, just like most of you or a lot of you. And it wasn't until I was like 14 that I decided to give my life to Christ. And about the same time is when I decided to, when God started introducing me to the world of missions. And I was curious about it, and I was interested about it. So I got involved in the mission world in my church locally and then internationally. As I was growing up and praying and wondering and pondering what to do and how to go about it and how to do missions, where to go, when to go, I was also very interested in engineering. I'm an engineer by trade, and when I finished my degree, I was wondering, should I go to a seminar? Should I go to do a master's? I don't know what to do. So continue praying. God opened every single door for me to move to England and do my master's in aviation. And whilst I was there, he showed me the huge need that Europe has, because there are very few believers in Europe, with the locals and with all the immigrants that are coming into Europe. Something similar here to the U.S. Like here in Texas, obviously a lot of us are believers, but we have a ton of immigrants that are coming into our country that don't know Jesus, and that's a huge opportunity for you to reach out to them and share the love of God to someone that has never heard it before. My plan in my head was, how do I serve the Lord with my degree? So I applied for a million jobs in Europe and in the Middle East. I thought, there is no way for me to get into the Middle East and be a missionary there, but with my career. So I applied for several airlines over there, and I didn't get a single job there. Nothing. And I got a couple of interviews for Qatar Airways and other things, but no job. So I was a little disappointed. I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? So at the time, as I mentioned, I'm from Mexico, so I didn't have any documents to work in the US. But I said, I'm just going to give it a try. So I applied for one job in the US, and that's the one I got. I moved here to Arlington, Texas, and I was wondering, what are you doing, Lord? Why am I here? So I decided to go to church. So I went to church, and the church that I joined, the first Sunday that I was there, they were preaching and they were talking about a new program about sending 7 units into the mission well, and I was like, okay, that's why I'm here. So I went directly and talked to the head pastor and the missions pastor, and I told him, "Hey, I'm new here. This is my first Sunday, but I know why I'm here. So I need to be trained to be sent." So they that's what they did. They trained me. I started in the process to be sent, and as I was going through the process, they told me about this thing that was going on with Arabs in Western Europe. And I was a little hesitant. I was like, should I go? Should I not go? Anyways, I ended up going. And um, to be honest, the first day that I was there, I was just playing football with the kids. And by football, I mean soccer. And I thought to myself, what am I doing here? I came to do mission work, not to play football. But that was so wrong of me. I mean, God really broke my heart and showed me the huge need that there is in Western Europe with the Arab immigrants and locals. And that's how I ended up there. And along the process, throughout this transformation or changing of heart from God, he introduced me to Emily, and that's where I met her. A few months after we started dating, a few months after we got engaged, a few months after we got married.
I also grew up in the church. I had the privilege of having parents that believed that it was important to take me to church. Um, and I saw faith lived out by many of the loving adults around me. Not all of them, but many of the loving adults around me. And that was really, really a sweet thing. And so because I had that privilege, it was easy for me to decide that I wanted to follow Jesus because I saw what that looked like by people who cared about me and that I was surrounded with. And so at a very young age, I was baptized, and I decided to make Jesus the Lord of my life. But as I'm sure many of you know that have grown up in the church and gotten baptized very early, when you make that decision very young, there are a lot of kind of the depth of what that means to your character that comes with growing and comes with maturing. And so I still found myself kind of battling with trying to do enough good things or be good enough. Um, and I've experienced the grace of God in so many ways, and He kept maturing me and calling me to recognize that it wasn't about me; it was about Him, and that He finished it all on the cross. And that I didn't need to perform, or I didn't need to be a certain way. That it was that He finished it, and so but that He hadn't just done that for me to live a happy, content life, but He had done that so that all people could come to know Him. And so I remember going to a youth camp and coming back, and I said, I'm moving to the Middle East, Mom, and I'm going to share the love of Jesus with these people that don't know Him. And she said, well, okay, but not right now. So she, as a very wise mother, encouraged me to also do some training and kind of prepare myself before I went to go bite off more than I probably could chew. So anyway, God gave me many opportunities to work with Middle Eastern and North African immigrants in Western Europe, here in the States, and just really all over. And so I had gone on a number of trips when I was nearing the end of university. And I remember driving at one point and hearing the Lord say, like in no uncertain terms, like move to this specific part of Western Europe with this specific ministry. And I thought to myself, like I've been there on a short-term trip, but that's not really where I envision my life. I don't really feel like that's what you're telling me. I'm dating this guy. I have these plans for my life. And he said, no, this is what I'm telling you. And I said, okay, well, if this is really what you're telling me, then I need you to make it happen because I don't have the money and I don't have the resources and this is not what I had planned for following graduation. And it was in like 2 months. And he did. and he made good on that promise. And so 2 months later, I found myself working with this ministry as an intern, and with all of everything provided for, and just flourishing in this role. And so that was when I was an intern, and Guillermo came on a short-term trip, and that's how we met. And then sparks flew, and anyway, I finished my internship, came back, we started dating, got married, and then we're sent out a couple of years later, actually, to this same ministry, where God had placed me and had brought Guillermo. And so now we're 7 years on the field, a larger family than we started, but still kind of walking into that ministry, and trying to set it up for its long-term success, and just give whatever we can give to it, to see, just to continue to see the beautiful things that the Lord does. So I mean, it's just really encouraging to be able to both be the kind of first line, the share who Jesus is for the first time with people who have never heard his name before or never known who he is. And also, it's cool to see the back end of seeing people be baptized and grow in their faith and raise their children in the faith, through leading stuff with the youth group and the Arabic church. And it's just the full circle, the full gamut of ministry and ministering to people. And so it's been sweet. And we're grateful to be there, and we're grateful that for all of the roles that God has put us in along the way, and for the way that He's kind of equipped us as we've been going.
Yeah. Now, how can you get involved with this ministry? What can you do about this whole thing that we've been talking about? And there are three things. The most important, prayer. So pray for us, pray for the ministry, pray for the people that we're working with, and pray for the seeds that have been planted to grow and give fruit. Pray for more seeds to be planted. Pray for good soil, and pray for people of peace, and for locals to get more involved. The second one is financial resources. As any other ministry, we need money to continue. And we're so thankful for God's provision along the way. So if I just get out of the way, if you want to get involved and support this ministry in Western Europe with your money, you can follow the link below, and we'll be happy to obviously connect with you and talk to you more about how to go about this. And the third one, if you want to be part of it, with your time, with your life, you can do it in three different ways. You can come on a short mission trip, and again, we can talk more about it. You can come for an internship of 6 months or a year, and just let us know how you want to be, how you want to get involved in this area. If in one of these areas, in all of these areas, in two of these areas, and our email is below, so you can contact us and let us know how you want to help. So we would like to tell you a couple of stories that we've seen happening in Western Europe with the people that we're working with. Just to begin with, I have to tell you that we found ourselves in a situation where it's a lot easier for us to come to a Muslim and talk about God than it is to come with a local, with a European. So when you bring the subject about God with Europeans, they immediately shut you down and they don't want to know anything about it. Whereas Muslims, it's in their lingo. They always talk about God, so they're open about talking about God. Now, that doesn't mean that they're being transformed immediately, they're converting immediately. No. Work is very slow, and we wish it would be a lot faster. But we also have stories of miraculous conversions where from one day to the other they come to know the Lord. So we want to share a little bit about this. Maybe we can share a story about one of these miracle conversions and another story about how slow the process has been. So my wife and I, we work at this center where we give different activities, and we help the new immigrants into this new country for them to start their new life and learn the local language, know how to go about a doctor's appointment, going into a government's office, etc., etc. And so one day, as I was sitting there at the office, the imam of the local mosque came and knocked on the door, and we had this whole conversation in the local language, like very fluent. And then he asked me, "Hey, I want to learn more the language." And I was like, "Well, you speak very good language. You speak very good. You're very fluent in this language. I don't know why you want to learn more." And he's like, "Yeah, but I want to perfect it. I want to improve it. I want to get better at it." So I was like, okay, well, I like it. Just bring three or four more people to the class, and I can open a class for you. Anyways, he left, and then later on, I discovered that this guy was the imam of the local mosque, and I was like, man, I missed my opportunity. So I just gave him a call, and I was like, I can open the class for you because I have some extra time, so we can do it. Why not? Anyway, so he signed up for the class. We're having a one-on-one class. We're learning more about the language, very specific things. And then he came for about 2 or 3 times to class, and then he stopped coming. And I was like, that's weird. He probably didn't like the class. I wasn't good enough or something, making it about me, which is not about me at all. And and then I gave him a call, and he's like, "Hey, you okay? What's going on? Why aren't you coming to class?" And he's like, "No, I'm sorry. I love the class, but I'm the imam of the local mosque. I'm very busy. I have lots of activities." And I said, "Well, we can continue the class on the phone or whenever you have time." Anyways, this whole thing led to a beautiful relationship with this person. I was able to share the gospel with him several times, and and he's an educated man. I mean, he speaks the local language. He speaks English. He speaks Arabic. He speaks a bunch of other languages, and I believe he was just testing me to see if I knew what I said that I know, if I was legit or not, if you will. So I was able to share the gospel with him several times, which was great. Anyways, um, for the first 2 or 3 years that Emily and I had been working at the center, we saw a lot of women and children come, but a lot of them, but very few men. And and we were wondering what's going on? Why aren't they coming? And we planned different activities. We prayed about it. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, a lot of men started coming into the center. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Thank you, Lord. I don't know how that happened. We didn't do anything new this time. Anyways, they kept on coming to the center. We started giving classes to them for them to learn the local language, etc., etc. And then I found now that most of these men, not all of them were coming because the imam of the local mosque told them to come to us. Now, the imam knows that we're believers. Obviously, I shared the gospel with him, and obviously, it's not the same religion that we profess. But somehow, he felt safe with us. He felt safe with my friendship, and we know that it's Jesus that moved his heart, and he's the one who's been sending all these men to our center. And so that was an answer of prayer that I didn't see it coming that way. So God can do whatever He wants, and He can answer your prayers in the way He wants it, and you'll be surprised.
Mm. So on the other side, so this is kind of a first introduction of people who don't know Jesus. So on the other side of people who are walking with Jesus, Guillermo and I got the chance to lead the youth group for a few years actually, and we got to see these kids who their parents walk with Jesus and they know Him. But at their church and theological background has been a little bit spotty, partially because we're always so short on human resources. So there were a number of gaps in the middle where they either didn't have a consistent teacher or they had very topical lessons taught, and they didn't necessarily know kind of what Jesus' earthly ministry looked like, except for a couple sporadic miracles. And so Gamma and I just decided that we're gonna read through the Gospels with these kids, with these youth. And so we started in Mark, which is it's 16 chapters, so it's more digestible. It's very quick. You go immediately from one thing to the next, and so we start reading through Mark with these kids, and oh my gosh, I mean, there you could see their lives changing like drastically over the course of about the 4 months that it took us to read through the Gospel of Mark. Um, and how their concept of who Jesus is and what he's done and what he calls us to do, and what we can see about his character and the character of God, how he meets people where they're at. I mean, just see these I don't know, just their faith grow so significantly, and see Jesus become so much more real to them. And so I don't know, it's really encouraging to me, that no matter what your background looks like, and no matter how great of a teacher you have, which I don't know if we were great teachers or not, but God is so faithful to work through his scripture. And he's so faithful to teach us about himself. And the more that we seek after him and look for him and who he is, the more we are just changed from the inside out. Anyway, sweet.
And to tell you another story, about year 2 or 3 when we were in the field, I was feeling a little discouraged because work is very slow. We
Mm.
didn't see any people being transformed. We didn't see anyone coming to Christ. And we were like, what are we doing wrong? You know, what's going on? Um, and as we were praying and asking God for direction and to help us do a better job, if you will, he kind of gave us a gift. We were at the center, and all of a sudden, this young man knocks at the door, and he's like, "Hey, I want to talk to Patrick." Who's Patrick? It's like, "Oh yeah, Patrick. Yeah, yeah." Well, Patrick worked the center like 5, 7 years ago, and I've never met him. I know about him, but he's back in his country of origin. And I was like, okay, I can put you in contact with Patrick, but how can I help you? I mean, I'm here right now. Can I do something for you? And he's like, no, no, no. I want to talk to Patrick. And I'm like, okay, I can put you in contact with him, but how can I help you? And he's like, I want to talk to Patrick. I was like, okay, I'll do that. But how can I help you? And he's like, okay, well, I'm done with Islam. I'm done with it, and I want to talk to Patrick about the God that he told me whenever he was here. I want to learn more about the God that Patrick used to tell me when he was here. So it was amazing to know that the seeds that seed that Patrick planted in this young man, I guess a kid when he was at the center at that time, had grown, and something that at the time Patrick didn't even know. He wasn't even aware that what he did 6 years ago was now growing, and and it's just an awesome gift from God to that he told me personally that, hey, it's not on your time, it's on my time, and it's my way and not your way.
Mm-hmm.
And the seeds that you guys have planted will give fruit, whether you see it or not. So that's just a story of how slow things go, but
Mm-hmm.
how faithful God is in all of this.
I think it's a good word, I think, for everybody everywhere,
Yeah.
right? So we're called to plant the seed, and then God is the one that waters it and brings it to fruition. And so we do everything we can to be his hands and feet and be faithful with the message that he's entrusted us, and then he kind of does the rest.
Yeah. I would like to say another story about how God uses miracles and dreams to bring people to him. We met this guy recently, and by recently, a couple of years ago, um, where this guy was having dreams about Jesus, and obviously at the time he didn't know it was Jesus. So he kept on having this dream over and over and over, and he decided to go and talk to his local imam. And his mom told him, well, you're dreaming about Jesus, but you're not supposed to dream about Jesus. And like, okay, can I control my dreams? No. Anyways, obviously he wasn't satisfied with the answer, and he continued doing some research. So he went to different places searching for the answer until he finally he contacted a friend of us who has a similar center in a different part of the country. And he went and talked to him, had coffee with him, and he told him, hey, I'm having dreams about Jesus. This is my dream. What's going on? Our friend shared the gospel with him. He told him what Jesus did for him. He told him everything he knows and believes. And on the spot, this guy told him, I want that, and I want to give my life to Christ. So that's what he did. He converted to Christ, and now he's part of the Arabic church, and he's just growing. So that's just another story of how fast things can go, and just God can do um, conversions like that, or He can go slow. But either way, He's faithful.
Few years ago, we started this media journey. And we started this pre-evangelistic and evangelistic and discipleship channel. And so as we started publishing material, I mean, it just took off. I mean, views were through the roof and it was wild. And what we noticed was about half of the comments were like really, really positive. But then there were some other comments in there that were like, oh, how dare you say this, or quite negative. And in our wise team members, instead of looking at those comments and thinking, oh, are we doing something wrong, decided that they would reach out to the people that were making these comments. And they sent personal messages to each one of them, and said, hey, what about this offended you? Can I explain further? And a number of those negative comments were actually people who were interested and wanted to know more about Jesus and wanted to have a follow-up conversation, but they wanted to appear like a good Muslim to the people around them. And so it just kind of goes to say that you never know who really needs to hear, who really is ready to hear the message of Jesus. And that sometimes the initial response might be negative, but sometimes their hearts really need that extra step. And so we were encouraged to know that there were these people that were portraying themselves one way, but then were so much more ready than it seemed like they were on the other side. So please pray. Please pray for these conversations as they happen, and for these people as they reach out, that we can accurately share with them exactly who God is, and how how He is inviting them into His kingdom, and how much He loves them and cares for them. And we want to thank all of you guys at the Life Church for your gifts. So this ministry that we get to work with, it wouldn't be possible without full-time staff. And so we get the privilege of doing this work, and we're so grateful that we have not just people that are giving their financial gifts, but also that are spending their time praying for this ministry. And all of it goes together and comes together, so that we can be the hands and feet of Christ to people who might not know Him otherwise. And so we thank you for giving toward the TLC budget, and we thank you for giving toward missions, because your gifts make this possible.